There we are, we're live. Hello, everybody.
All right, we're just going to give it a minute or so to let everyone trickle in, and we'll get started.
Where's the elevator music when we need it, eh?
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. All right. All right. Should we get started now?
Do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so just some quick housekeeping for the webinar. This session will be recorded and shared with everyone afterwards. Everyone obviously will be on mute for the duration of the webinar, and then please use the Q&A panel to submit any questions as we go through the webinar. So today we're going to be covering VMS Portal success and how we can increase speed to market and win more business. My name is Leanne Perez. I'm the Sales and Strategy Specialist here at Bullhorn for VMS Automation, and I'm joined with Abad Rana, who is our Solutions Consultant, who's going to be taking you through our demo later. So for today's agenda, we're going to cover the VMS Portal landscape. We're going to review some recent survey insights that we received when we surveyed our international customers. Abad's going to take us through the practical demonstration and review how you can automate your VMS business. We're going to cover a quick Q&A, and then we have a little bit of an AI surprise with a special guest. So make sure you stay tuned after the Q&A so you guys can see our little surprise there. All right, so let's get started and really look at why we're here in the first place. So growing agencies are adapting to VMS being a growth opportunity by embracing automation. SIA has reported a 20% year-over-year growth in the VMS market since 2020. And you can see that even in a post-COVID world, VMS is still on a very strong growth trajectory, which means really that there's a ton of value there, and it's more important now than ever to adopt VMS business, and we don't see it slowing down anytime soon. So let's dive into why your clients are seeing the value in driving you as a customer through the VMS Portal technology. So we all know clients are down on profits and they're really focusing on streamlining these processes. So we're going to kind of cover some of the key components as to why they find such strong value in a VMS portal. And a lot of that comes with supplier management and cost control, quality performance and scoring, standardizing onboarding processes, streamlining time and expense and approvals. And some VMS portals even offer direct integrations with their HRIS or ERP systems. And of course, most importantly, providing strong analytics and reporting capabilities so that they can really see how their suppliers are performing and see who they want to work with the most. Which then, of course, just kind of ties into what I mentioned in the earlier slide, that there is extreme growth in this market and there's a lot of value and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So let's go back to the beginning and really talk about what is a VMS, right? So with the typical VMS portal model, you'll have your end client. So that's a customer, a client that really needs to manage their contingent workforce. And then we'll have the MSP. They're there to manage the vendors and really find the talent for the end client. And then that MSP typically comes with a VMS portal. We also have some scenarios where the end client can actually provide their own VMS portal to use. And really that is just a technology that's used to distribute requisitions to you, the supplier or the agency. And then you as a supplier will be tiered and scored either quarterly or annually, depending on the program. And then sometimes that end client can actually take their HRIS or their ERP system and integrate it directly with the VMS portal. So what that means is, let's say Microsoft in this example, they're working on getting a business analyst. They're submitting that through Workday, getting all the approvals for the requisition. Once that approval is done, it's going to go straight to the VMS portal and be released to you, the agency, to start working and fulfilling that requisition. We also have a scenario where the MSP can change if the end client chooses to move to a new MSP, or there's no MSP at all. So what that means is the end client will then choose to manage both the VMS tool and their contingent workforce and their vendors themselves. And the reason why we want to call this out is because typically once a VMS model is in place, they're seeing the value. They're starting to feel the impact of everything I highlighted on that previous slide, and it's rare that they'll take it out of their workflow at all. So let's dive into what's a typical VMS portal workflow for an agency. So obviously, once you are a part of the program, you'll get the requisition released to you. And this could be dependent sometimes on a tiered structure. So whether you're a tiered 1, tier 2, tier 3 supplier, and that just means who's going to get the job the fastest. Typically, tier 1 will get the jobs first, right? And then that job is released. In today's world, if you don't have VMS automation, that's going to come in the form of an email and directly to the person who is actually the user in that VMS portal. Then the account manager will review. You likely have another step or validation in your agency's process. Then hopefully the job order is created and filled, created in the ATS. Sometimes that's not always the case. Then the recruiter is notified about the job once it's available in the ATS. Account manager talks with the recruiter. They begin sourcing and screening, and they start working to submit the candidate back into the VMS tool. So what we see here is there's a lot of unknown amount of time that's just lost due to busy work. We know it takes about 10 minutes to copy and paste the order back into the ATS from that email that the user is getting from the VMS portal. And we know it takes recruiters about 8 minutes or so to start submitting the candidates back and forth. However, we do want to highlight points of risks here. When it comes to that notification coming via email, that's a huge risk. What if that account manager is on vacation? Or I'm sure many of us have swivel chaired at one point where we're turning around asking our partner, hey, what's the updated password for Beeline? And sometimes we don't know, right? So there's that risk there in time, loss of time because of a delay with getting the actual order. And then does the order even make it into the ATS? Typically, all of these requisitions are getting emailed directly to that one user. And it's likely that they're probably nitpicking and picking which jobs they might want to work or they might want their team to work on. And then with sourcing and candidate submittals, if in a traditional model with so much work happening outside of the ATS, it's likely that submittal is also happening outside of the ATS. So candidate data is at risk here because if submittals are happening outside of the ATS, it's unlikely that that candidate data is being added to your system. So we're going to switch gears here and we're going to start diving into some of the insights that we got from our international customers. As I mentioned earlier, we did recently survey our international customers and we had really great feedback. And what we uncovered really is that agencies are looking to do more with their VMS portal business. 89% reported that they use at least one VMS tool, and almost 9 out of 10 agencies use VMS portals today. 68% of agencies shared their VMS business is growing or either has stayed the same, which again, still highlights that growth and opportunity there. And then 43% of agencies said that they see their VMS business as a growing and strategic initiative. So again, really highlighting the value and opportunity within the VMS marketplace. So majority of agencies did report that they tend to work on inaccurate data. So 64% of our survey respondents did confirm that they do not keep VMS job data up to date. And this, is not the best because frequently updating job orders is going to ensure that you have access to the most current information. Without it, You might miss getting a jump on a hot new position or waste time on a closed order, which then is going to again lead to those missed opportunities, still working those jobs that have already closed out in the VMS portal. And then areas where agencies reported that they do want to see more automation were in areas such as entering details into the ATS, receiving and routing orders, asking job order clarifying questions, sourcing and screening, formatting candidate submissions, submitting candidates to the VMS, and tracking VMS metrics, which 81% of this can be automated today with Bullhorn VMS Sync, which is really awesome. And then the remaining percentage can actually be done by using Bullhorn automation with matching and screening, and then with sourcing with Bullhorn SourceBreaker or text kernel today. And like I mentioned earlier, make sure you stay after the Q&A because we're really going to dive into what the VMS model looks like in an AI-based world. So you'll get a little sneak peek there with our special guest. So now I'm going to hand it over to Abad to really dive into what is VMS Sync.
Thank you, Leanne. So let me just share my screen. Hopefully that is going to work. Do I have a nod from you, Leanne? Is it working okay?
It looks good.
Lovely. Good to meet everybody. So just to reintroduce myself, my name is Abad. I'm one of the solutions consultants here at Bullhorn. Now, what is a VMS portal workflow look like, right? So when we're looking at VMS sync that we're talking about today, the first element is all about the syncing piece, right? So Leanne mentioned around, you're relying on people to have their login details, to log in regularly, and you're relying on them to also move or copy and paste those jobs from the portal into Bullhorn. So the first piece here is we're pulling that information for you automatically. The next element is really important, right? Because you might be using multiple VMS portals, and a key piece here is the normalization of that data. Now, every portal is going to be slightly different, so we need to ensure that we're normalizing that information correctly. In addition to that, we also have to make sure it's being mapped correctly, right? So different fields will mean different things in different systems. So we have to ensure that that experience is always going to be the same, no matter what portal it might be. In addition to that, we can then apply rules, right? Business logic. So based on the any jobs that might be on the VMS portal that you want to pull through to Bullhorn, you can set those rules up to decide, which jobs are coming through, but also who is it going to within your business, right? So maybe you have a specific team or specific individuals that manage those jobs. Therefore, you want to ensure that they go to the right people. And then the final piece is the submittals or the submission of those individuals to those jobs. Now, again, you might see that little small asterisk next to submittals, and there's a good reason for that, and I'll show you that on the next slide. And this is where we start talking around, okay, well, there's over 100 different VMS portals out there, right? But what we find is 51% of those tend to be SAP Fieldglass, Beeline, and Pixid VMS. The great news here is our solution supports all three for submittals, right? So chances are you're probably using one or two of these solutions right now. In addition to all the other, of course, the other VMS portals we don't support for submittals, we do support everything else we just mentioned. So in terms of syncing those jobs back to Bullhorn, bringing all that information from the VMS portal, it's just a submission piece that we don't support for those others. But I'm sure, as time goes on, we might support them. But again, we'll see how things go. I don't want to promise anything. Now, before we get into a demonstration, I do want to quickly just outline what we're going to cover. So let's talk about those jobs being pulled into Bullhorn. What does that look like? How does it feel? What's the experience of it from a consultant point of view? How do we now source those candidates, right? So typically you'll have to go in, manually search for those candidates, and okay, that works sometimes, but if you want to make that an efficient process, we can utilize things like automation to auto-match candidates automatically. We then go through the submission process and how we can normalize those forms that go out to those various VMS portals. And then at the end, of course, utilizing things like Bullhorn Analytics to analyze your entire VMS project that you're doing within your business. So have that full view of absolutely everything that's occurring. So let's jump into a demonstration. I'm sure Leanne will have some great insights to add as we go through as well. So let's get started. Now, let's look at this from the point of view of I'm a consultant. I'm logging in the morning and my emails have come through. And again, we can send automatic emails to the right person who needs to work that role because they, based on the business rules, they've been assigned that role, that job to work. Now, again, we can send an email. Equally, it could be very simply jobs come in and automation takes over from there, right? Dishing out notifications to the right people. So again, there's a couple ways we can do this, but the main thing here is the emails come through. It's giving us a good overview of this role. It's telling us where it is, location, the company, etc. And it's also giving us a link straight into Bullhorn to that job. So once I click that button, that'll take me straight to the job within Bullhorn. And as you can see here, it's pulled through all the relevant information that I need, right? Based on the mapping and the normalization that we talked about, right? Whatever VMS has come from, in this case is Beeline, onto the job. In addition to that, you might notice things like comments, for example. So we can also bring in additional information that might be on the job within the VMS that will be specific for that recruiter. So any special information, special considerations that might have been included, we can pull those through as well. So you're ensuring that you're getting all the information that might have been put onto the portal. And again, you can see it's gone to the internal description. So if you ever post, if you ever post, it's not going to go into in the wrong place. But the idea here again is it's pulling through the employment type, the number of openings, the status, and again, this is a key piece, right? Because VMS Sync isn't just pulling the job; it also will update information on the job as time goes forward. So it could be as simple as, well, what if whoever has put the job onto the VMS portal closes the job? You want to know about that. You don't want to waste your time. Equally, what if the number of openings has gone from 5 to 2 or from 1 to 5? You want to know about that as well. So we're doing all of these things as part of the VMS Sync solution. Now, the job has come in, but what if it's not been assigned to an individual? This is again where we can utilize things like list views within Bullhorn to, as a manager to decide, okay, well, I can see here, this is the job we were just looking at, everyone. I can see it's assigned to a bad. Great. But how about these other jobs that haven't been assigned to anybody? Really easy. And I'm sure most of you who use Bullhorn already know I can just quickly go in and change the ownership really fast that way. So again, we're giving you that overview and the insight so you can make those decisions. And the very thing, of course, is being synced in. No one's having to copy and paste, make mistakes, etc. It's all being done for you. Now, of course, you notice we've reduced admin. The time to bring that in was relatively quick, right? So the jobs will just sync as time goes on. No copy and pasting. If someone's on holiday, you don't have to worry about whether if you can find their password, etc. It's all being done automatically in the background for you. The job comes in, the right person is notified. Now, the next stage here is we want to start searching for candidates, right? And of course, we can go through the standard Bullhorn search, which is really straightforward, but you want to reduce that time to fill. You want to make this as quick and simple and easy as possible. So this is where we can utilize Bullhorn automation to auto match candidates to that job. So you can see here, in fact, if I go back to the overview really quick, we have this auto match step on the workflow for this job. And when we click into that, this is showing us a short list of all the candidates that have been auto-matched. And again, you can see here, this will be the experience of, I can see there's 5 candidates that have been matched. Brilliant. I can start previewing them, go through them as I normally would as I'm using Bullhorn. And again, this is where if I switch over to automation really quickly, we can set up automations that will go away and say, okay, well, let's look for any new jobs that have been added to Bullhorn, right? AKA via VMS from a VMS portal, and then let's match those candidates, right? And again, you can be very specific, right? You could create a different auto match automation for different types of roles, etc. And again, here I'm just looking at a pool of all my available candidates within certain distance, etc. But that again, this can be controlled by you, right? Based on your requirements. And the idea here is if we can sync those jobs automatically, we can then auto match candidates, right? How much time are we already saving there? Right? We're allowing the consultant to instantly see, here are my best 5 candidates. Let me look through which ones I want to put forward to the next stage. So really quick and easy. Beginning of the day, my time is precious. So let's spend it as best we can. Now, when it comes to submitting those individuals to a job, right, there's going to be a couple of pieces here. So the first one is, well, when it comes to the business rules, well, what if there's a certain number of candidates you're only allowed to submit to a job? That might have been set by, within the VMS portal. So if we go to this example here for this applications architect role, let's quickly just submit a person and see what happens. So if I hit submit to VMS,
Mhm.
we'll go through the steps together, right? So hopefully it'll go nice and quick. Oh, of course, once you're demoing it live, right? Okay, so we want to submit, in this case, I want to submit a great candidate I've been looking at, Sarah Rush. So I'm going to add her here. I'm going to create the submission. But what the system is going to do is, based on those rules, it's going to tell me, or it's going to warn me, oh, by the way, you can't submit any additional people. Again, give it a moment. It'll come up on screen. Okay, well, imagine everyone that it is at the top of the screen. So there would be a nice big banner that would show up and say, well, you've already done too many submissions. So the idea here again is you're not wasting your time and you're following the rules that have been set up in the VMS portal.
And this
But
also ties into that tiered approach with being a part of a VMS program, right? That sometimes as a supplier, you only have 2 submissions or you only have 5 submissions. So that's really great about submittals is that it will really call it out to you. Hey, you've hit your 2, right? It's time to move on to the next job.
yeah, 100%. So yeah, just my luck during a demo. It's not coming up, but let's do this from this other job now. So we now have a job we know we want to work. We want to put a candidate forward. So in this case, we want to put forward Sarah Rush. So what I can do now is I can go to my actions. I can submit to VMS. And when I do that, again, I can select Sarah from my list. So let's add Sarah in again. So there we go. We should have Sarah comes up. There we go. Create that submittal. And you might have noticed a moment ago on that other job that it's a form, right? And I think this is calling back to each different VMS portal is going to be different. And when we talk back to normalization, when we talk about getting the data structure and the mapping piece right, this is all part of that configuration element where we'll ensure that, well, we know first name in Bullhorn is first name in VMS portal, etc. But the great thing here is when we're actually creating the submittal, it's giving us some really great quality of life pieces. So for example, we might want to quickly reference the company that we're submitting this to. So again, I can go in, I can open it up with the binoculars. I can see all the relevant details here. If I want to see any more information about the job, I can, and even the candidate. So again, I can see, in this case, Sarah's CV, any other details, and any notes alongside that as well. In addition to that, we also have the ability to say, well, I only want to see the required fields. So I can click on that very easily, and I can come in here and say, okay, well, what do I want to put in here? Or what do I need to put in, for example? So in this case, I need to put an ID in. Are they a former employee? Are they a former contractor? Do I want to add any additional documentation? So again, so for everyone's context, we can actually pull different documents from the Files tab on that candidate. So if there's anything additional you want to add, you can. And the other piece as well is if anyone has questions about credentials, well, all you have to do is go into your credentials, merge PDF those, move them to your Files tab, and then they would be available in here too. So you can send those as part of the submission. I can, of course, drag and drop onto the screen. Again, this element here is a bit a more American focus, but the point is, for the UK, it will be configured to the UK, and then anything additional such as rates, etc., in here. So for the rate, I'll just put 83, and from here I can now submit. So when I hit submit, that's going to ask me if I want to. I hit submit, and now at this point, it's live, it's going away to the portal, it's pulling back the form, it's trying to say, okay, is everything okay? Is everything right? Is everything correct? And of course, we've done a lot of the automation piece already, but it's just doing that final check before submitting that individual off to the portal. And the great news here as well is this action also is a submission action against that job. So we're now going from the candidate just being auto-matched or shortlisted to a job to the point of, okay, now we've CV sent them, right? And what does it mean when we change the submission status? Well, we can use automation again, right? So if we want to send out an automatic email to a candidate to say, hey, we've submitted you for this role, et cetera, just to let you know. But it equally is the other way around. What if the candidate is rejected once they've been submitted to the VMS portal? You want to know that as well, and so does the candidate. So again, we can use automation to automate those steps to say this person's been rejected, fine, let's email them automatically. And instead of just saying, see you later, instead what we're doing is, hey, we have other roles. Why don't you have a look at our site, or why don't we book a chat in together to continue that next step, or even auto match them to another role. So these are all things that you can do as part of the Bullhorn platform, of course. So again, that's completed. We've submitted Sarah. We can either click done, or I might have another candidate I want to put forward. But that process is complete. And if you can imagine the pain you go through, if that Leanne mentioned earlier, you have to go into the portal first, remember your login details, copy and paste into the system, goes through 2 or 3 people's hands before it even gets to you. By the time you are finding the right candidate and submitting them back, how much time is that, right? That's you spend quite a lot of time doing that. When here, job came in, Automatch found the candidate, and we were able to submit that candidate really quickly, utilizing the normalization of the information back to the portal.
Yeah, and another great thing to call out is I know you highlighted the resume and the attachments, but in a world without this, all of the recruiters are just downloading sensitive credentials and information about the candidate onto their computers. So that downloading and uploading takes a lot of time, but it's also a security issue at sometimes, right? So it really streamlines that process.
Yeah, no, 100%. And in fact, I remember I forgot something, and I think it's probably worth just showing you really quick. While we were filling out that form, there's going to be areas that you perhaps need to put a bit of a summary of the candidate as well that you put forward. And again, I didn't do that in this step, but I mean, imagine using something like the Bullhorn AI assistant, a generative AI assistant, to create those, right? So you could go to the candidate while you're in the form. You could go in, create that client pitch, generate that, within seconds, copy and paste it, and put that onto the form as part of that submission too, right? So again, more time saved from the point of creating the submission, creating that summary, putting it into the submission, hitting go, and essentially that person gets submitted too. So a lot of great ways we can save a lot of time here and streamline that process. Now, finally, before we finish up on the demo today, I do want to just cover off that visibility element with analytics. So again, we had the ability to look at all the jobs via a list view. From my perspective as an individual consultant, I'm going to get those notifications. But how about you as the overall manager? You want to see across the business how are we performing? What are we doing? What's our time to fill? How many placements do we have from VMS related jobs? How many CVs sent, et cetera. All of that can be surfaced through a dashboard within analytics. And again, right now we're looking at a dashboard, but that, of course, if you're using the one view page, you'll also be able to surface those through different metrics. And of course, you can change these up too. So if there's anything specific you want to utilize or bring up or surface on screen, you can. But one of the great things here as well is well, you're going to have maybe a monthly, a quarterly review with your client. So you want to be prepared in that meeting. And you can do that very easily through here too. So if I very simply go into Bose Corporation, which is the company we were just working with to submit our candidate, I can click on that, load the data up relatively instantly. And now we're looking at this from Bose Corporation's perspective, right? We can now say to them, hey, look, this is our performance. This is what we're doing. Look how quick, in this case, maybe not that quick, but look how quick we're working, and we're able to bring submit candidates. The minute you release them, we're on them straight away, right? We should we belong as tier 1, for example. So
Yeah.
all of that can be done through here.
No, and I just kind of want to dive a little bit deeper into like how impactful this is to the business leaders, because like we mentioned earlier, it's unlikely that they're accessing the VMS portal, that they have the logins, that they're getting all the jobs. So it's really giving that global view into your VMS business and seeing, hey, maybe we do need to focus on this because we're actually getting pretty quality jobs that we didn't know we were getting. So it's really allowing you to see the full scope of the potential as well.
No, 100%. So to finish off now, just the last couple pieces. And yeah, I'll just hit slideshow and there we go. Um, just to cover off a few pieces of value here, right? So in terms of the substantial gains we see from VMS automation, we've found that there's up to a 49% faster candidate submission time, which again, hopefully from what you saw today, that demonstrates that. Up to 55% more interviews on average per month, and up to 33% higher job fill rates as well. So that is really impressive, right? Just it's a piece of technology that's helping you achieve all those additional numbers. And then the last element here is all around just, okay, well, VMS Sync is helping you with your jobs data and distribution control. The quality and performance scoring, so we saw that with things like analytics. Standardizing the workflow process, right? We're taking it away from an individual, and instead we're putting a system in place that will fulfill that requirement, but also keep it standardized. Streamline your time to fill ratios. Of course, big piece is integration, right? Because we are able to plug into those VMS portals, we can pull that information and push it, of course, for those three specific VMS portals, and then analytics, right? Strong analytics and opportunity data. It's all going to be surfaced. You're going to have that visualization. You're going to understand how you are performing across the business, but then, of course, with individual clients as well. So we'll now jump to Q&A and just check if we have any questions. Unfortunately, I can't see the questions piece. Leanne, so we're gonna have to let you do that.
We have a few
Let's
questions.
swip over here while we do that.
Okay, so one of the questions we received was, what is required for a submission?
Well, that's going to depend based on the different VMS portal. And again, part of the whole project of putting VMS Sync in is setting that up, understanding what is required, what information needs to be brought across for that specific portal.
Yeah, and just to kind of add to that, and for the example of, let's say you have a VMS portal that might be multi-end client. You might have two end clients through Beeline or Fieldglass. It is set up on that end client level because though they're both in one similar system, they could have different requirements for that submission. So it is all configured based on that end client. And then what if it is a redeployment? Will the submission still work? Yes, it will still work. Obviously, the VMS portal will identify that candidate already exists. So, and we got some more coming in. What is the time lag between data received from VMS and the sync to Bullhorn? Do you want to take that one, Abad?
That might be one for our special guest, to be honest. Off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure.
So I'll tell you what, let me come in as a voice of God real quick and do this. So,
love it.
So Frank, to answer your question, the lag, it's not a lag at all. We're talking like sub 1 minute of that job being released. It's already hit your system and auto match is already starting to kick off, right? So it's normally the time it takes for an email to hit your inbox in a traditional manual world. The rec is already in Bullhorn. The system is set up to be operating real time. There's a couple of ways we can even speed that up as well. So if you change the email address on your VMS credentials to be one of ours, soon as that, in case it hasn't synced in that time, us receiving that email can trigger that off to come pull that down as well. So yeah, we're talking like sub 60 seconds for your jobs to be syncing into Bullhorn.
Lovely. Thank you, Ben.
Okay, and then Vicky asked, which contact at the client will the vacancy be added to if that person is not on Bullhorn? Will it create one?
I think that's another Ben one. Do we
That's
create
cool.
the
I've got
client?
it. Oh, good. I've got it. So what we do, Vicky, is part of the integration and the mapping exercise. We will get you to pick a contact that the vacancies go against. Simple process. So if you don't know who the hiring manager is, we don't automatically create anything because the hiring manager at your end client doesn't typically display in the VMS job every time, especially if there's an MSP sitting in the middle. So what we do is we'll just ask you to pick your default contact and just map to that.
Okay, and then is this feature part of an enterprise automation license or is it a separate feature? This is an add-on feature. So yeah, but if you have any further questions about how it could fit into your specific setup, we recommend you contact your account manager so you guys can discuss that. And then does Bullhorn have a solution which helps extract the timesheet data out of the various VMSs, then validates and then enables recruiters to post that into pay and bill? That's a tricky one.
Dries, to answer that question, we don't do that at the moment. We're still looking at how we pull time data out of VMS. We support it in North America. So if there's anyone on this call that has that question, they're based in North America, it's actually part of our Bullhorn middle and back office solution over there. But in international, because we've not got middle and back office solutions, we've not built that yet. It's not the VMS sync engine that does it. It's actually our middle office that does that operation and pulls the VMS sync time. So in the international markets right now, that's not something we solve, but we do in North America.
Does Automatch operate off of Bullhorn data or from the CV?
At the current time, it's Bullhorn data.
And the CV.
The CV.
Yeah.
That'll get even better as time goes on.
And I'm going to talk about auto match in the future of that in a moment as well, so that's fine.
Okay, and then another automation AI question. So for automation AI to work effectively, presumably the sync will need to pull required skills from the job order on VMS. If the skills are not added to the VMS, presumably automation cannot occur, question mark?
It still can. So there's a couple of things we can do. You'll have a scenario where the skills in the job on the VMS and then not in your Bullhorn instance. There's a skills mapping area inside the system where you can go build a mapping against those as well. So that's one way of doing it. There's a scenario where there's no skills on the VMS side and you want to add skills on the Bullhorn side. Let me hit that in a moment with some of the things I'm about to present, because that's a solution that we are going to solve for, but we need generative AI for that to really be a thing. And then the last one is you've got the same skill on your side as what's on a VMS. That will just map naturally.
And then similar question around feature, or if it's an extra, is it a standard feature for all Bullhorn users or a paid extra? It is a paid extra, and so we recommend you talk to your account manager so you guys can discuss what that looks like. Okay, and then final question. If you have multiple client profiles, let's say 3 client profiles for the same client as you work with them in different currencies, USD, GBP, Euro, would the VMS sync to one client profile or all 3?
Amazingly powerful rules engine powers this entire platform. So if you have one set of credentials into one customer, but you actually want to map that into 3 Bullhorn client records, it's 100% achievable today. That's something that's been supported since day one.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well,
lots of good
that's
questions.
it for Q&A. Great questions, everyone.
All right. Over to Ben. Oh, there's our mysterious ghost.
Our special guest.
I've come out of hiding now. It's all good. Let me share my screen and we'll talk about this. Yeah, highly recommend you stick around. There's one more question just coming actually. So while I hit share, I'm also going to just hit that. And that is, how does it work with cover sheets? It's all part of the process of you preparing the documentation before you do the submittal. What I mean by that is you're going to have a formatted CV ready. You're going to have a cover letter ready. You may have some supporting documentation, credentials, etc. You'll prep all of that in the file area. Once all that's in place, then when you're in the submittal, if you remember, you saw the document picker as part of that process, you can select any or all of the documents that are required straight from there, and that will just come across as well. Cool. I've managed to lose everyone's faces as part of the process of
we can still see you.
Yeah, we see you.
Yeah, I just can't see everyone else, so I've just paused my screen share for a second, but I think we're good to go. Okay, so thanks for sticking around. It's going to be an exciting moment for a few minutes. We're going to talk about the future of this and our plans with AI and where we're going to go. Anyone on the call that I've never met before, we've never spoken, you've never seen me present before, I'm Ben Carter. I'm Senior Director for Automation and AI here at Bullhorn. VMS Sync is one of the automation tools that I look after. Leanne's in my team. We work together daily on this. Leanne's got a ton of experience when it comes to VMS. She lived this world as a customer for many years as well. So always feel free to reach out with Leanne if you've got any other questions around this. I'm going to take us into a little vision around, I'm going to stop talking about VMS for a moment. I'm going to talk about AI for a moment. Then I'm going to come back and connect the dots back together, because I feel like I should give everyone a little bit of a quick 2-minute whistle-stop tour on what we're planning on doing with AI, and then I'll piece everything back together when it comes to VMS as well. So if we think about VMS for a moment, the biggest burden that everyone has, especially in the UK, is it's incredibly low margin work, and it's normally a lot of effort to go do this in a blind environment. And what I mean by that is you typically don't know the end client. Normally, the MSP is taking a cut of your margin, right? If they're involved, they're taking 10% of the potential 20% you can earn. Traditionally, everyone's wanted to operate outside of the VMS scope or outside of the portal world and try to still build that direct relationship. And that's getting harder and harder, because more of those end clients are just locking down those avenues because they want to control everything. They see the value in the VMS technology and driving all of this. So really, the only way you can recoup some of this margin is through automation. And what I mean by that is what we're looking at on screen is a day in the life of a recruiter. And those percentage brackets are all based on the time spent. Time is probably your biggest cost when it comes to margin erosion, working on opportunities that you don't win, because that's just pure cost to you. There's no income when it comes to it. So we're really focusing our AI strategy around this as well. How can we assist everyone that's inside the Bullhorn system with AI across all the areas that they normally typically spend inside the system? And we've got to this equation now where probably 35% of everyone's time is focused on sourcing. If you're a 360 consultant, slightly higher. If you're a recruiter, very much higher. But if you're a 180 consultant in sales, it probably brings it down. So we've averaged all these out. But sourcing is a hell of a lot of time, and it's a lot of time that's spent at the top of the funnel. And the top of the funnel is never going to be proactive. It's never going to be effective. It's the busy work that everyone has to do because it's part of the job, but it's the worst part of the job. Then we've got screening as an area as well. So that's really, once we've worked our way through the top of the funnel, when we bring people into it, we spend a lot of time through the screening process. Submitting and selling. So that's submitting people back, whether it be spec CVs, CV sends, submittals through VMS portals. However you're doing it, a lot of time, again, is spent in that preparation and kind of getting it all ready to go out the door as such, and the selling element of it, because it's not just about sending a CV. You have to sell a CV every time you send it as well. And then thanks to automation, actually the admin tasks and things like that actually are quite low now. So probably on about 15%, because as we know, we're very far in a journey now of automation, and a lot of our customers are using it. And we're seeing absolute results that people that use Bullhorn automation are outperforming and outgrowing those that are not. It's just fact. We see it in the data. So many people have now adopted into the automation mindset as a business, which means we've reduced that admin time. But we can do better with that through AI as well. So let's think about the first bucket for a moment. So let's think AI sourcing. We can put AI through the sourcing strategy. It's really going to unlock us to be able to do more. So think about using AI to get your search result, ranking people in the right way, recommending candidates and jobs all the way through the process. Yes, we've got auto match steps in automation. That's amazing. And we're going to continue to enhance that with the same AI that we're going to do in the search tool. But being able to just be in a vacancy and let the vacancy tell you who the best people are, or be in a candidate record. And it's not about working a job, it's about working a candidate. So don't just submit that candidate to one, submit that candidate to as many jobs that's relevant for them as possible. Being able to do things like text to search. Why take time building Boolean searches when you can just type project managers in London available next week, and it builds your search for you, and away you go, and you go internal, you go external, you turn on follow bots and agents and things, so it notifies you every time it finds somebody new that's relevant to you. This is our area of focus when it comes to AI sourcing. When it comes to screening, we are building screening agents. We're testing them at the moment. We've got customers testing them already. These things are incredible, and they're mind-boggling in terms of what they can do in terms of acting on their own with very little setup from our side. So that's things like virtual screening agents, being able to dynamically build screening questions. And we mean dynamic. So it's based off the last response of the person is what the next screening question is going to be. And we've tested it, we've challenged these things, and we're seeing incredible results come from it. Being able to get a summary of what a screening was actually like, get a scoring out of that. So a neutral score out of 100. How good is this candidate in respect to this job? and all the analysis that you need on the back of that as well to see the ROI that you're getting out of the screening agent. And that's through voice, that's through SMS, and we're also going to enhance our chatbot capability with all of this as well. Next, we've got submitting and selling. So this is where we're going to utilize AI for formatting resumes. We're going to utilize AI to present the candidate to present a candidate a job, or pitch a candidate to a client, and even automatically submit via VMS Sync as well. So what does that look like? Well, you saw the form. You saw Abad go to the Copilot card in order to generate the pitch, and then he was going to paste it back in the notes and send the sizzle reel along with all the data. Just have AI go and complete the entire form for you. And then all you've got to do is sanity check it. And if you're happy, you just press send. And then somewhere in the future, you'll probably get to a stage where it's if anyone scores over 99% in the sourcing and the screening, just auto submit them. Let it happen automatically. Because then it's like fastest finger first to get the right candidate to them. You can get your data in the right place. I truly believe you can get your data in the right place to be able to just fully automate this process. And then lastly is utilizing the AI assistant, right? Today we call it Copilot, but we're spreading this everywhere. So that's content creation, giving you your own prompt studio to be able to generate your own generative prompts to be able to do everything you want to do through there. Embed it further in the workflow. So when you're adding a note to the system, utilizing the AI assistant to be able to generate content for you, etc. And data enrichment. Think of all the parsing capability we have now. We own text kernel. There's incredible technology there when it comes to parsing. We're going to apply AI to there as well. Extracting any data that's in the system. And what we mean by that is extracting unstructured data and turning it into structured. What does that mean? Imagine you hang up the phone call and a complete transcription of that conversation just drops into a note in Bullhorn. So much conversation has happened there that can turn into structured data. Available dates, travel distance, preferred job titles, anything else you can think of as a conversation, being able to extract that and be able to automatically kind of tag that kind of stuff. So there's just so much that we're working on and focusing on. One thing I'll call out is you'll see a lot more detail about all of this at Engage in November. So if you've already got a ticket, absolutely be there from first thing in the morning, because the Vision for Innovation is going to go over all of this in a lot of detail. But let's talk about what it looks like in action and just kind of close this out with what it looks like for VMS. So if we think about a job comes in, right? Jobs in from a client. At this point, it's not necessarily VMS related. We just have a vacancy. We add it to Bullhorn. The AI assistant, so think of the generative AI capability, can now come in, and it can do things like, and the first thing I'm going to respond back to is you spoke about skills that may be missing. Well, we can look at the job description and assume some skills there. So we'll be able to actually update what your job record looks like and improve the content and the quality of the information there. Not only that, we can take the job description and convert it into a job advert. We can then use automation to flick a switch and do other things as well. We can generate screening questions along the way, right? We can match candidates. You saw the capability today. Abad had 5 candidates matched in that vacancy that have come down. If you're not utilizing this already, you're missing out on a huge opportunity here. Just to be able to just get you to the top of the pyramid as such, the tightest, the best people in your database first before you even think about going external. Then you've got being able to do things like create hyper-personalized outreach. So whether that's using the Copilot card to generate an outreach message, or however we're going to do this, it's been able to really just turbocharge how fast you can do a lot of this process. Then we've got the screening agent. So now this is where if the right people come back and they respond, push them through the screening agent to be able to answer all of the pre-screen questions that were generated on that job and be able to be dynamic in the way it interacts, etc. Then the successful people, the people that score the highest, well, they'll just be able to book time in a recruiter's diary. That's where you come in for the first time, because this is really the stage where you should be getting involved, much further down the funnel, much more closer to the money. Once you've sifted through everyone that's not relevant, this is the opportunity for you to now come and step back into this and actually use the human element of the job, which is and always will be. AI is never going to replace a human to be able to persuade someone if they're right for the job, should they go for it, coach them on the interview, hold their hand all the way through it, close them, close the client as well. There's so much human element that will always remain in recruitment. We just need to focus it at the right time so we're not burning time. And then lastly, it's all about submitting and selling. So using generative AI workflows to be able to get all this information out the door and get all these CVs submitted. But this is only truly scalable with automation. So this is where the likes of VMS Sync comes in. Pull all of these jobs in. So much value as to why every single job that gets released to you should be in your database. Don't worry about metrics and KPIs and things like that. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about here is if today you're only actually ever operating with 10% of all the jobs released to you, you sit down with that MSP or that end client and as part of your review, and they say, what do you think your fill rate is? And you say 20%, because you're only operating on the ones that made it into Bullhorn versus placements, not the ones that were in the VMS portal available to you at the time versus placement. And they're going to challenge you and say, actually, you're incorrect. It's more like 4%. Well, the reality is if you get all those jobs in, not only do you get more factual data, you also get to see more opportunity for growth, because opportunity for growth is really what this whole webinar has been about, which is if you can see the data, if you can make the right decisions as an organization, especially as a leader, then you know what your opportunity is to be able to say, right, we've got these subset of jobs that this client's been releasing to us for the last 6 months and we've not touched them. Now's the time. Let's get marketing involved. Let's start doing some top of the funnel activity campaigns. Let's start capturing these candidates. Let's train up a couple of people. Let's unleash some automation and some AI on this subset of the database. Let's see if people start biting. Great. We've now got this opportunity where we can pivot into a whole new market that we didn't even know existed because it was sitting in someone's inbox and we wasn't aware of it. So that's the reality on just the value of just sinking all these jobs down means to you as a business. But then automation is what kicks in, right? The job sinks down. Automation improves the data quality of the vacancy if it's not already there in the VMS, creates that job posting, marks your job as public, so it now appears on your website automatically, generates those pre-screening questions. We identify the right candidates and we match them. The automation engine will now use AI to be hyper-personalized in that outreach. It's no longer just using merge tokens in an email or in a text message. It's about actually invoking generative AI to write more meaningful things about content that's in a CV and what's in the notes, etc. as well. So it's being hyper-personalized in the way you do it. Then at which point the screening agent kicks in again. Because if they are super top of the funnel and these applicants coming in that has no history with you, passing them through the agent first, whether that be web-based voice like we're on today, you're hearing my voice, but we're not on a phone call. So just meeting people with what they're used to. Is it going to be a web-based agent where you talk to someone? Is it going to be SMS chains where you go backwards and forwards? Is it just going to be launching a chatbot and just engaging? All capability will be there and be usable. Then it's booking time in the recruiter's diary. Again, we support that already today with Bullhorn automation, right? Every single person that's a Bullhorn user, if you have automation, can have a link that you can automatically populate, which means people can book time in your diary. But again, then the recruiter kicks in at this time. So now this is at scale because now every recruiter is kicking in at the right time. And then presenting candidates back to the client, again, in a VMS world, it's submittals. No one's leaving Bullhorn. No one's downloading data out of Bullhorn onto their desktops. No one's going straight to a job board, downloading that CV and submitting them to the client, and then that candidate never makes it into your database. It's just living on someone's desktop. That's the pain that I truly believe, and we all believe, because I was a customer as well, we all know that that's the pain that really exists. So with that, we've gone over, but I'm going to say thank you. And it doesn't look like there's any other questions. By the way, ben.carter@bullhorn.com, always happy to speak to anybody. Leanne's also happy to speak to anyone. Abad will obviously speak to anyone as well. But yeah, it's been a great session. I'm going to shut up and let these two wrap up now.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to see everyone stayed on so long. So really appreciate that. Obviously, if you want to link up, LinkedIn, however you want to contact us, by all means, we're here to help.
Yeah, I dropped my email in the chat if anyone wants to talk further, but really thank you for coming, and we're a resource if you guys need us. So thanks for joining and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.